Hi, friends. Um, I just got back from walking to dinner and I thought I'd come and do a live. I was going to do one earlier, but I was walking through an area that there really wasn't anything going on. So I don't know if I didn't have a great signal or what. So I thought I would wait until I got to the hotel and come and chat with you. So I want to chat with you a little bit about superpowers and recognizing that we all have them. In my first book, Dying to Be Good Enough, I talk about this as one of the chapters. It's all about, when I speak about it, I call it my easy, my gift. And what I mean by that is we all have something that we do really, really well. And it's so easy for us. It's so easy and natural that we often blow it off because it's so easy and natural, we tend to make an assumption that it must be easy for everyone else too. And that's not the case. The point is it's easy for you because my easy, my gift. So what is the easy for you? Because that is a gift, right? So the reason I bring that up is regarding superpowers. And today I was back on the boardwalk with some really tender feet. And I was a little frustrated about that. And also what I realized is that part of the reason that I'm not loving the boardwalk as much as what I walked previous to Porto and all the way up from Lisbon, I was winding through some small villages, some cities, and going through neighborhoods. If you've seen any of my videos before this or seen photos before this, you've probably seen that there were a lot of tiny villages that I went through. And what that meant was that I would be stopping in small local cafes, and the majority of the people in those were locals. And I did my best to navigate conversation. I used my translator. We fumbled together and we figured it out, and it was amazing and beautiful. And that's one of the things that I tend to really love most about travel is the connection with the local culture and lifestyle and people. I really love that. I love going and being connected. I don't want to be a tourist per se. Where do the locals go? I talked about that in a previous post. I always want to find out where are the locals going, because that's where I want to go. I want to go hang out where they hang out, not where the tourists are going. For example, on the cruise Lindsay and I took last, I think it was in a Cozumel, maybe at Cozumel when we got off the ship, and there was is it called a Senior Frogs? Or maybe it's a Margaritaville. I don't remember which one it was. And the ship docked, and at the end of the pier, there was whatever that famous restaurant is. And I'm not dogging on that restaurant, but what we noticed is that so many people just went right there. I'm not going to go to a Senior Frogs or Margaritaville at the end of a pier ship when I get to a new city. I'm going to go explore. And so I really loved that the first 20 or so days, walking through all of these small towns and neighborhoods and back roads and winding and weaving through them, because you just never know who you're going to meet, right? You never know the connections. Plus, even if I wasn't meeting people, I still felt like I got to be a part of their village, right? You get to see their lifestyle. You get to see how they're living. You get to immerse yourself in something completely different. And what I realized on the boardwalk today is one of the reasons I'm not loving the boardwalk right now is because it feels so removed, and it is so removed from all of that village life. It like literally removed. We are pulled way over here, and I'm going to show you some photos so you can see what I mean. But the boardwalk is way on the side, and sometimes it's next to the ocean, sometimes it's not. But it's off to the side of the neighborhood, and really there's not a lot of on and off. And you can see the neighborhood over there. I can hear the church bells, but I can't see the cathedral. One time I did see a cathedral. I took a picture of it. So I'm feeling like I'm missing some of that connection. I'm feeling like I'm missing some of that, like the things that I love the most about travel, right? So I was admittedly frustrated about that earlier. Now let's tie this together. So I started by talking about one of the lessons I love the most, superpowers, my easy, my gift, right? One of my easies, my gifts, and my husband, bless him, reminded me of this in a message this morning, said, I know you're going to find something good out of this because that's one of your superpowers. And he's right. I am going to choose to find something good because that's the situation I'm in, right? The path right now on the Camino is calling for me to walk in a way that I am not loving as much. And still I'm going to find something within that path, right? Because that's a choice that I get to make. I might not get to choose, and that's a different conversation we could have. I might not necessarily get to choose always the path that I'm taking, but I do get to choose how I respond. And so he reminded me of this beautiful superpower that I have where I'm going to alchemize anything and I'm going to work my magic on it and I'm going to pull out something good. And what's really interesting is shortly after we briefly chatted about that, I had two incredibly wonderful conversations. Now, you may have seen me talk briefly about Fatima, the path to Fatima, which for a long time we were on the same path together. And then at one point I passed Fatima and kept going. And so now there are a handful of pilgrims that are coming toward me. You can tell that they're a pilgrim, right, by their backpack. Maybe they have the poles that they're walking with. So you can tell they're a pilgrim, but they're going the quote wrong direction, which because of where I came from, because I started earlier than Porto, I happen to be one of the few people on the path right now that started back in Lisbon. And because of that, I know that those people that are coming opposite direction than we are going are probably going to Fatima. So I saw two pilgrims within a 10-minute span, just a few minutes after the reminder of superpower, right? The reminder of, I'm going to alchemize this situation and I'm going to work some magic on it and turn it into something amazing. And as they were passing individually, they weren't together, so individually, maybe 10 or 15 minutes apart from each other, I questioned out loud, Fatima? And the first gal, her name is Sophie, she's from Italy. She stopped and walked over and gave me the biggest hug, and it makes me emotional. And she'd said that she'd been walking for 5 days and not one person has acknowledged her. Not one person has acknowledged what she's doing on the path. Now, that's a whole other conversation for another day. We're not going to get into that. But in that moment, what Sophie needed was to be seen. And I had a chance to see her because I happen to know that because she's a pilgrim, because she's a pilgrim, but going the quote wrong direction or the opposing direction that we're going, she must be going to Fatima, right? But Fatima, the path to Fatima is not as common. It's not as well known as Camino. So a lot of the people that start in Porto don't know about Fatima. They're not familiar with it. I didn't know about Fatima before starting. I happen to know about Fatima now because I saw so many darn signs going there on my way that I learned a little more about it. And it's amazing. So the moment I said it, Sophie came over to me, gave me a big hug, and acknowledged. We spoke for probably 5 or 10 minutes and talked about how she felt so alone and on her own because everyone else is on their way to Santiago and no one is noticing what she's doing. And she finally got a chance to feel seen. And if I were walking through villages today, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, about 10 minutes after that, and now, of course, I'm moved, and other people are walking by us going like, what is going on? You know? Number two, we're back on the boardwalk. And so there was an area where Sophie and I connected where it was boardwalk, and then it opens up briefly, and there's like a tiny cafe area that's all pilgrims, and then it's boardwalk. And Sophie and I happened to connect kind of in that where it just briefly opened up for just a short period. About 10 or 15 minutes later, we're back on the boardwalk, and there's a young man coming, again, opposing direction. He has trek poles. He has a full, the full gear. He has a water bottle on his chest. Clearly, he's a pilgrim, right? Going in the opposing direction. And so as he got closer, I asked him, Fatima, and he stopped, and the smile, friends, the smile that he gave me, oh my gosh. And he came right over to me and stopped, and we talked for like 20 minutes. And he told me his story was similar to Sophie, and how he said it's amazing how so many people on the Camino right now are just in their own world, and he felt so unseen. And he's like, I'm debating if I even want to continue, and I don't understand. And so I had a chance to explain to him what it was like coming up to Porto, and that it was a totally different experience, and that as he passes Porto, he's going to find more pilgrims that are going to Fatima, and he's going to be able to connect more with them, and the people that are coming up from Lisbon will know that he's going to Fatima, and they will be able to connect with him. But if they're starting in Porto, they haven't seen it. So most of the people starting in Porto have no idea, unless they know about Fatima from another way. And so we really had a long conversation, and at the end of it, he's like, I know I was supposed to pass you today. And there again, what are the chances we would have passed if we were walking through villages? And yet, we get so caught up, right? And I wanted to walk through villages today. I was so frustrated about the boardwalk yesterday. My feet were so tender because of the boardwalk. So tender. And this morning I contemplated, like, do I really want to walk on that darn boardwalk again? And you know what? I was like, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. It's going to be fine. And when I got on the boardwalk, I even told myself, and I even told my feet, and I told the boardwalk, and I told, like, I don't know who else was listening, but out loud, I'm like, okay, boardwalk, you and I are going to do this, and we're going to figure out how to make it work. And it's going to be great. I don't know how it's going to be great, but it's going to be great, because this is what we're doing. This is what I get to do today. And prior to that, I had sent Lindsay, my husband, a message, and it was in the morning before I had left, and I had told him, I'm like, I just need help. I'm struggling. My feet are really tender, and I just need help. And when he woke, obviously as many hours after I've started, because it's a 6-hour time difference. And when he woke, he's like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but that's when he said, honey, I know. I'm sorry you're struggling right now, but I know your superpower is you're going to find something. And so I got to read that, and I took a breath with it, and I was like, you know what? He's right. I'm a freaking magician. I always find something. And it was moments later that I met Sophie, and then 10 or 15 minutes later, that I met, why can't I even think of his name now? Oh, I can see him. I could draw a picture of him if I could draw him for you. Oh, I feel bad now. I can't remember his name. Okay, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. It matters very much, but I won't waste your time with it right now. But I just want to remind you, the moment that we have expectations, right? The moment that we think it's supposed to look a certain way is when everything gets shut off. What if we can turn it over and just say, you know what? It is what it is. This is what's happening. And so I'm going to find the goodness in it today. I'm going to find it. Boardwalk, you and I are going to get along. Feet, you're going to get through this. Body, I know you can handle this. Body, I know you can handle it. You're going to do it. And then just imagine the blessings. Now, shortly after that, dang it, what was his name? I'll think of it. A few minutes after that, maybe, I don't know, another 10, 15, 20 minutes after that, I got off the boardwalk. It wasn't done yet, but I got off the boardwalk for a little bit. And I came across a couple older couples that had some dogs, and I got to play with their dogs. And then a few minutes after that, there was a gentleman on the side that I was walking on, which was in the shade, and it was kind of off to the side from where most of the pilgrims were walking, which I choose to just kind of go in an opposite direction, not to get away from people, but just like I don't want to play follow the leader, right? So I went to the opposite side, and there was a gentleman that was grabbing something out of his car, and I was able to help hold the door for him, right? And he stopped me and he's like, "Here, have some." And they were figs, and they were the most delicious figs. I don't know that I've ever had a fig in real life, because I had no idea that they tasted like that, other than fig Newtons. So I'm going to put a picture up on that too. Was it actually a fig? Because he said the word in Portuguese, and I said fig, and he said, "Yeah, see, fig, fig." And he gave me a handful of figs, and they were amazing. And things like that happen, right? When we allow ourselves to let go of what we think it's supposed to look like, or what we want it to look like, and allow ourselves to land in what it is. And then we can lean into, okay, how can I take everything from this in a good way? How can I suck all of the life from this? How can I pull everything that I'm meant to pull from this? And the other thing that I want to remind us of is when we say, you know what, I'm going to get out of my own head, and I'm going to do, what can I do to bless someone else today? If I were to just, what if I show up with my palms open and say, okay, use me. Here I am, use me. Right? Because the moment that we do that, there are opportunities all over the place for us to be a blessing. But if we're so caught up in our own pity party, our own, I don't want to walk on the boardwalk today, which I really didn't. And you know what? I'm so grateful I did. I'm so grateful I did. And now we'll see what tomorrow brings, right? We'll see what tomorrow brings. So I hope that's a snippet of my day. I'll share more today. After yesterday's 17 plus miles, today's 10 plus miles felt like a blessing. I got to my hotel room and cleaned up. I even blow dried my hair, cleaned up, and I walked over and had an early dinner, and I got to put my feet in the ocean and walked back in my bare feet. And that felt like such a blessing, because yesterday, after 17 plus miles and that extra hour of detour, I got there and really didn't, my body was not in a position to do more walking and get to the beach. So today I was able to do that. So that felt like a blessing. And tomorrow, we're on to some more miles. I think we have another maybe 12 or 13 tomorrow. So that's what it looks like. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you have a beautiful evening, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, friends. Love you. Bye.